Welcome to the Wine Brothers Podcast. If you like what you're listening to, please feel free to support us on Patreon at Wine Brothers Podcast, Instagram at Wine Brothers Podcast, and Twitter at Wine Brothers Pod. Thank you very much and enjoy. Hello, Michael. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, John?
Doing fantastic. Having a nice, productive Sunday, actually.
Good for you.
Yep.
I mean, I can't brag that I was productive today, but I did do a good deed today, and I feel good about it. I helped paint someone's ceiling.
Okay, well, great. What'd you paint? Like some guy touching fingers to some other guy, or what?
No. It was just a standard ceiling white, but
Standard ceiling white.
I'm not
okay.
that artistic.
Well, your name is Michael, so.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on. I'm killing it.
You're killing it. Oh, my God, yeah.
And if you guys, for the listeners, the Sistine Chapel. I love that joke.
Sistine Chapel.
I know what it is, Mike. I'm just kidding.
Sistine Chapel.
Anywho, what's going on in the winery for you?
Right now, as Christmas approaches, I've got one barrel down to do left. I have one Cabernet Franc that's still in tank. The only reason it's still in tank post-pressing at this point is because I needed to make some acid additions, and I'm waiting for the pH to stabilize to a good level before we barrel it down. But that's happening tomorrow. That's happening tomorrow.
When do you normally make the acid additions pre-maceration or?
Oh, dude, I threw so much acid at this thing, you would never even expect that I would have to add acid post-fermentation.
Gotcha.
But like the wines go in the East, they have high potassium content, and when you're running fermentations in conjunction with your malolactic process, I see massive movement, like 0.4 of a point in pH movement, which I never saw in California.
Yeah, particularly when your vineyard has a high vigor and
but this was actually fruit from New Jersey. This is for a custom crush client. Yep. And you wouldn't, I mean, those skins, I don't know what it is. It's just certain sites or whatever, but it got 3 grams as soon as it came in the door. 3 grams of tartaric, and then it got another 1.2 grams during, like, pre-ferment after cold soak to bring the pH down. And it was looking good, but you never know because you can't get a good reading because the skins and juice are in the tank. And regardless of how many pump overs you do, you just don't get a good homogenization and a good reading. And then the skins start soaking and the malolactic drives it up. And so by the end, it was at 398. And that is just not in a safe range. So I had to juice it afterwards to bring it down. So
I've had to bottle a few wines in that range.
It's not a big deal if you are going to be selling it right away and you expect that it'll move soon. And I've made that decision before in California. I had a Zinfandel that was amazing, and it was almost 4, and I had to make a call. Like, this wine is great. Do I want to mess with it? Should we just bottle it now? And we did, and it did wonders. Like, it's sold so fast, but you know, you have to explain to people that it's not going to be a super long aging wine because of the high pH. But
how's the color?
Most wine is consumed within a week of purchase. So, I mean, you're rolling the dice, and people don't usually long age Zinfandel. So,
yeah.
However, that does not, like, this is a Cab Franc that it's a little bit different. So,
yeah. How was the color on the Cab Franc you got in?
Good. I mean,
good.
I wasn't great, I guess. It was okay.
One of our vineyards had really good color this year, and then one of our vineyards was rather on the lighter side of things.
Can I ask what the age of the vines were on both of those?
The one with the lighter color was about 10 to 12 years old. And then the other vineyard with the better color is on a really sandy site, and it's a really good site. And those vines are about 6 years old.
Okay. And so just better drainage on the second site with the darker color?
Yep.
Yeah.
Better drainage.
Because we saw that in our vineyard. I mean, the skins were very thin this year. I mean, if for those of you who aren't aware, the East Coast got hammered with rain during veraison. Like, it just didn't stop. It rained and rained and rained and rained, and then a hurricane came. It missed us, thankfully, but we still got a little rain. And you got some rain when that hurricane passed through, too, didn't you?
We certainly did.
Hurricane Me, right? It was Hurricane Me. Michael.
Yes, Hurricane Michael. No, yeah, obviously this year for pretty much everybody on the East Coast was not ideal, but we've got some gems hidden in the rough for sure. So
yeah, I mean, our Malbec came in great. But, I mean, it didn't come in with high sugar, but the color was there, and the flavor was there, and everything else was there where it needed to be. So it's going to be a wonderful wine. But I said if I had to make a general characteristic about the reds that came in this year, their skins were exceptionally thin, much thinner than we've ever had in my experience here. So I think that high rain content played a big factor in that.
Yeah, so. And really, there's not much you can do for that other than really drain the heck out of your vineyard and
pulled a ton of Saignée. Pray that your vineyard's on a slope and has really good drainage.
Yes, every I think I'm so happy that when I planted the vineyard up in upstate, we did a really good job draining it, because in the tough years it really does pay off.
Oh yeah. And
the other thing I realized, I don't know if I told you that.
Too.
What's that?
In the not so tough years, it pays off too.
Yes. Yeah. And
to be able to
control
your moisture is a wonderful thing in this business.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you this, but we're actually in the Finger Lakes AVA. Just barely, but our vineyard is. I didn't know
that's
that.
Sweet, man. That's great.
Yeah.
You'll be able to put it on the bottle. That's wonderful.
I know. I was really happy when I realized that.
I mean, I assumed that you would have been, but where is the demarcation? Is it like Route 81?
It's right. Yeah, pretty much 81. So,
okay.
Atisco Lake is it's where we just make it.
Good. That's great, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would love for us to get established as an AVA here. I mean, right now we put our county on the bottle, but it would be nice to have an AVA in our area of Maryland. There are a couple of AVAs in Maryland, but they're across the bay from us. They're on the west side of the bay, and we're on the east side of the Chesapeake. So,
gotcha.
I would love to. You know, it takes some time to establish an AVA. You have to lobby for it, and you have to prove that your soil has unique characteristics and your climate is unique to the area, and you need some defining characteristics to separate your area from another area.
Yeah.
And it helps. I mean, at this point, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 wineries within, I don't know, maybe 30 miles, maybe less. And let's see, 1, 2, 3 of those 4, actually all 4 of them have grapes planted on their property. So we definitely could maybe make a group of it and lobby for that. But it generally, what I've heard is it takes about 5 years to get that through. So we need someone with perseverance.
Yep. In New Jersey, we're in the Outer Coastal Plain, and that AVA is like this flat region that pretty much goes from the ocean all the way to, it's like a gentle slope all the way up until, I don't know where they make the cutoff, but it's pretty defined when the soil starts to go from the sandy ocean floor that used to be covered to, the Delaware River and all that kind of soil.
Okay. And is the Delaware River stuff more gravelly?
I'm not sure what the defining line and the cutoff is, but I know it's like the It's the change from where it all used to be underwater to where some of it used to be underwater and not all of it. So I'm not sure.
Okay. And your soil is it sandy loam? What?
So we've got mostly like sand with clay veins running through it. Is the
Okay.
best way to describe it. And then there is like some gravel. It's a kind of a mixture. It's funny
Okay.
if you come to our vineyard, it's like mostly sand. There's some clay veins running through it, and then there are like these just kind of like probably golf ball sized round and oval rocks that are just everywhere.
Neat, like small cobbles.
Yeah, small cobbles. It kind of
what-
reminds me of like, the rocks in Chateau Neuf de Pape are bigger, but similar.
Okay. When you say that soil changes in Delaware, is there an AVA in that Delaware water gap
No,
area?
I don't think they have their AVA. I think the outer coastal
Okay.
plain
So
is
it just that's it and it
yeah.
ends. So if they start doing wineries up there, they'll probably try and create their own deal.
yes, they and I think there are one or two looking into that. I'm not sure though. Mm-hmm. I
I know
actually
where I was in California in the Sierra foothills, they were kind of pushing for that. There was one guy who wanted to lead the charge for our area, but we were in the Sierra Foothills AVA, which is the largest foothill. It's the largest AVA in California. It runs almost the entire length of the Sierras.
yeah.
And so it's really broad, and there's definitely some distinguishing features between all of those areas. So it would have been neat to chop them up a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder if you could keep. You know how like you could keep the Sierra foothills on there and then have some sort of other demarcation that would be like
Right.
a subset of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do vineyard naming, right? You could
Yeah.
say, like, I don't know, the specialty vineyard in the area, but I don't know, anything to set yourself apart, right?
Yeah. You try any cool wines lately?
I've been
Well,
drinking...
if you don't have an answer, good, because I do.
Go for it. What do you got?
So I actually got to try a carbonic maceration done on Chambourcin, which was
Interesting.
it was really good.
Cool. What
And,
kind of flavors were they getting out of it? Did it go bubblegummy?
Yeah, yep. It had the characteristic like Beaujolais Nouveau profile, very jammy. Some of that isoamyl acetate banana kind of flavor, and it was it actually for Chambourcin it had some tannin, kind of like it had mouthfeel, which was very cool too.
Interesting.
But it was very reminiscent.
Okay, go ahead.
It had a lot of the characteristics of like a Beaujolais Nouveau, and I really liked it.
What year was it?
It was this year.
Wow. Okay. Did you talk to the winemaker? Or was this just something you got to taste special?
It was just something I got to taste special. I really would love to plug their winery. I can't remember the name of it though, and I want to say I think I know the name, but I don't want to say it if it wasn't them. So
Okay.
it's one
Well,
of two.
maybe you can link to it in the description.
yes,
on our podcast.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah, I've been listening to other people talk, so I figured I would say that too.
No, it was a good wine. I was really happy with that. I'd love to fool around with something like that.
I did taste a carbonic maceration wine on the East Coast during some seminar, and it was interesting because I talked to the winemaker afterwards, and she told me that they were gassing from bottom and top all the time. She was like, we were doing it like 5 times a day, just from the bottom valve and the top over and over and over and over and over again to just reduce the amount of oxygen exposure in there. So
Yep.
something to play with. It'd be a lot of fun.
It'd be fun to play with, and even if you don't bottle it as that kind of style, it'd be great just to have those aromas, to blend into.
Yeah, I was
another.
just going to say that. So if you do it in a small tank, you take a portion of your red, you do it in a small tank, and you get those flavors, and then you have the choice of, what percentage you want to blend into your main red and see, what benefits you get there, just to add to complexity.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what we would do with the first time we do it, and then if we have really good results, we'd do more of it, and then maybe bottle a portion of it for our wine club or, just to release in the tasting room,
So I've
which could be a
got
lot of fun.
I've got a red tank that's a 452 gallon that would probably be ideal for a situation like that.
Yeah, I guess we were trying to figure out the logistics because how do we destem right into the tank, and then how do we gas it? Or
Right.
if you do it in macro bins, is there a way to do it so you could keep enough carbon dioxide going to it on a macro bin? If you
I mean, you could wrap it. The
that's
thing
exactly
is,
what we were talking about.
you wrap it in
Wrap it.
plastic,
Yeah.
and then you put your gas line right into the top, and
And you
you could
just walk
probably
by
take.
every.
You know what you could do? You could take your gas line. You could hook it to. You could put a racking or a wand down to the bottom, and that way you could gas from the bottom, and then you could also run a gas line in the top too. And so you're bubbling gas into it, but you're also shooting gas over the top of it, just making sure that you got a really good seal. I mean, it would be tough in a macro bin, and you risk higher VA potential with that. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's an idea. It's worth a shot. I mean, what are you losing? Like, even if you do it on a small test subject and you have a half-ton bin, it's a half-ton. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. It's one
We should
half-ton that you experiment with. If it works that year, then you expand it later. And maybe do it in a 1-ton bin, which would probably be
I should
easier.
pick the brains of some winemakers who have actually done this.
Yeah, I
See-
mean, talk,
see if they have any
read
ideas.
some articles.
Yeah.
I know there are people that get to play around like that when, they're doing small things. I've always wanted to do that. I want to do Barrique Integral, which we're gonna push hard to do that this year, especially with our Malbec. I would like to take 4 barrels and do Barrique Integral with it. The one thing that I'm struggling with is having to empty the barrels. I don't want to have to pop the heads out of new barrels. So I saw a video online with them filling barrels, and basically they were destemming, and it came down the conveyor belt, and then it split into 2 smaller conveyor belts that dropped into funnels that went right into the barrel with the whole berries.
How do you get it out?
That is the key, right? You have to pop the ring, and you have to pull the end out and dump it, which is a pain in the tail, and basically it nearly destroys the barrel unless you have like a good cooper on site. Normally what I've seen people do is they'll pop the top ring, they'll take the lid out, they'll load the grapes in, and then they put the lid back in and they make a paste, and they put a paste around the outside to keep it from leaking. That is a big pain in the tail, and I talked to a kid up the street who does it, and he was like, never again, never again. So what he does is he just took the lids out of his barrels. He's got the tops are out of his barrels, and he just does it vertically, and he punches them down. So it's
Gotcha.
fermenting in the barrel, but there's a lot more oxygen exposure there,
Yep.
but you got a ton more oak exposure too. So there are definitely benefits in it.
What is the advantage, do you think, of that than just front loading your oak tannin additions and or either putting staves right into your fermentation tank?
Well, I don't know about the stave thing. Stave is a surface area issue.
Yeah.
With the oak barrel, you have more surface area, and the oak quality is generally higher than that you would get from powder or chips. The other thing is, it's a cooler fermentation, so you're getting more fruit expression. It's also whole berry, which I don't know if you do. Do you do whole berry work at all? It makes pump overs a freaking nightmare. That's why.
Yeah.
Do you have screens in your tank, though? You must have
We do.
screens because you have auto pump overs. So you could do whole berry work.
And now that we have a better system for it, we're probably just kind of what I think we should do, since we're going from the crusher to stemmer into the peristaltic pump and the auger that's connected to the peristaltic pump.
Right.
I would like to just expand the distance between our crusher rollers, so
that's
that
what
we're
we do.
barely even crushing, and then just pumping it as whole berry as possible through the hoses to try to fool around with something like that.
Yeah, so generally I'm doing about 25% whole berry work. So I'll just open the rollers at the beginning of the crush run,
Yeah.
and then I'll bring them together after the first bin is filled. For those of you who obviously haven't visited our winery, the way that it's laid out is we have an elevator that brings the grapes up. We dump the lugs into the elevator, brings it up to the destemmer. The destemmer knocks the grapes off the skins. It drops down onto a conveyor belt that's about 16 feet long. And we have sorters, 4 people on both sides of this conveyor belt, picking out, little stems, jacks, things that you don't want in there, bad berries, raisins, whatever. And then it comes down, and at the end of that table, that's where our crusher rollers are. And then it gets crushed, and it drops down into a satellite tank. And we have to lift the satellite tank up with our forklift and dump the grapes down into the top of our tanks, which is pretty labor-intensive, but it is definitely gentle on the fruit, gravity dumping compared to having to run it through a must pump.
Yeah.
Although the peristaltic pump doesn't crush anything, so that's a big deal.
Yeah,
we do not have one of those available to us. So
we changed last year. We were going from a pretty coarse crusher to stemmer into a impeller pump up into a tank, and that would really grind up seeds, especially because the crusher to stemmer we had a metal impeller in it, and it was just brutal.
I know, dude. I know.
Yep.
I had one of those in California.
And we switched to the new crusher to stemmer last year mid-season, and this year was all the new Mori crusher to stemmer that's very gentle. Plastic basket, plastic paddles, gentle crusher to stemmer. You can change gentle crusher rather. You can change the width of the rollers, and then we go right into an auger into our peristaltic pump, and it really has changed the game. It's really made our wines. Already, that kind of sawdust, chalky tannin. We're not even having to deal with
the powdery tannin. Oh,
yeah,
you're not.
It's really,
okay.
Yeah, we're not. It's really the tannin we're getting is much rounder already.
Wow.
Which is
so
awesome.
the rough. Let's see. So that's what you're seeing is the difference is just better tannin quality.
Yeah, and I notice it's less green. So like some of that pyrazine, especially
too.
in like the Cab Franc that you would get, or that stemmy kind of aroma, is way less. When you smell a Cab Franc from a cool climate, and you know that it's Cab Franc for those few characteristics. Yeah, we've really reduced that.
Yeah. So being able to control that, like I had someone come into the winery on a tour, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago. And they said, "Oh, do you guys do any? Do you keep the stems and do you put them in your tank and do stem inclusion?" And I said, "No, we're on the East Coast. We don't. That's a flavor that's naturally present that we. But I mean, if we can get that reduced and to get to a point where we would do stem inclusion, that would be just awesome."
So one of the winemakers I know up in upstate. He does some stem inclusion because he's got a gentle process, and it really makes a nice wine. I had his Pinot Noir that I think he said he added back, to like 20, let's say 25% stems, or just some stems in the fermentation, and it was a really good wine, and it had nice fruity notes.
It can give you structure. I mean,
yeah.
Interesting. I would have loved to taste that. I would have loved to taste it against the same vintage that didn't have stems. Just to see.
When we're home on the holiday, we should try to go to a couple places and just have a tasting.
Yeah, I would love to. There's a few places up in the Finger Lakes that I know are a couple that are by appointment only that I unfortunately wasn't able to go to last year when we did a little wine tour up there. So we should do it this year.
Yeah, definitely. My palate when I was studying, I was getting really good, and now I'm losing it. But I played wine trivia with Nikki the other night, and I nailed it. But it was an easy one. It was a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and I picked it right out.
Oh, yeah. Nice, man. But completely blind.
Completely blind, yeah.
Good. That's fun. I miss that. I miss having a tasting group. When I was in California, we had a group of like some serious wine tasters that were all going for their different levels of their sommeliers, and we had a good group, and we were bringing in great wines. We had a lot of access to great wines. I mean, at least one of us was going down to San Francisco or Berkeley once a month. One of us was, and so we were able to stop at some really good wine shops and bring up some cool stuff.
When I was in that group here, it was great, and there were awesome wines, and I loved it. But midnight on Thursday was so hard for me.
Yeah.
Because they were all restaurant
They don't care when
workers.
it's harvest. They're in the service industry.
Exactly. All restaurant workers, and they're getting off of work and staying up till 2 a.m. is not a problem to them. Where I'd get home at 2 a.m., I wouldn't fall asleep till 3, and then I had to wake up in 2.5, 3 hours to get to work. And I was like, I can't do this anymore.
And they're going to work at 1 or 12.
Yeah.
So yeah, different hours for sure.
But I'm also always looking for a group of people where I can taste more wines, because that's one thing. I haven't opened up a new, like, that one bottle of wine was probably the only bottle of wine we've drank in a month. Like, the one bottle of wine I had was that.
Yeah. Well, we also have the benefit of tasting wine all day, every day at work, and that helps.
Yeah, I get so used to my wines, though. You know what I mean?
Well, you get cellar palate, right?
Exactly.
So it's so important to taste other stuff. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, my friends just started a small pop-up bar here, so I went and tasted their stuff, and that was good.
Oh, cool.
And my friend Jacques up the road, he has me over for dinner a bit, and he always has something cool from South Africa, because he's South African, so when his family comes to visit, they bring him all these cool,
That's
cult
awesome.
South African wines, so I get to taste some really cool stuff.
Chenin Blanc and Pinotage and things like that?
Definitely Chenin Blanc stuff. Yeah, Pinotage. He brought, he's got a Barbera that I've tasted that was really cool. So just weird off-the-wall things that, either he made because he worked at one of the facilities down there, or he knew the winemaker, so he has extra tidbits of information that you wouldn't normally get on the back of the bottle, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
So
I love hearing the backstory too. I think that from a marketing standpoint in the wine industry, the backstory, I think a lot of people love that. So if you can, have a little video talking about each wine, for people who are into wine, I think that's a great selling point.
Yeah, and from my standpoint, I am always interested in production. When I taste a wine and I taste a certain flavor, I want to know what they did. Exactly. I want to know what they tried, and if it's something I haven't tried or something I have tried, I'll try it again if I love it, or it's always good to learn new techniques and try new things.
Well, we bottled our unoaked Chardonnay and our Rosé last week.
Good for you.
And I would say I'm really happy with both of them. I really the unoaked Chardonnay is probably it's really good this year. We were able to keep the acids up. It's got like a nice mouth-watering kind of feeling when it's in your mouth, and it's weight. It's got some weight to it, and then just a really clean, good nose, and I'm happy about that. And then the Rosé, which is mostly Chambourcin with probably 25 and 25% of Cab Franc and Cab Sauv, and then a touch of Merlot in there. There's definitely some Merlot in there, probably another 5-10% of that. And it's got some good acid. It's got a nice nose. We changed the way we made our rosés. Where, remember that one we had from Provence at that pizza shop?
Yes.
Yeah, we were trying to go for something like that. Little acid, fruit forward, nice and clean, and I'm happy with it this year. I really am.
So when you say you changed your technique, was it Saignée versus crush and press, or what?
So this year we did. Sometimes we do press some fruit right into it, depending on if we have a vineyard that we don't want to make wine, or came in at the wrong time or whatever, and we don't want to make a dry red out of it, or we don't have the tank space or something. We will crush.
Do a crush and press.
Exactly, but this year was all Saignée. But what we really changed was we changed the fermentation style. So we used to Saignée it after it was already inoculated. So we would be using that red yeast. So now we Saignée it first during a cold soak, and then we actually use cross evolution for some of it.
Cross Evo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. We used another wine for the one that didn't take with a cross evolution.
Yeah, right? There was always
We
one
used
that didn't take.
R2 for that one. And
Okay. How
and
did
we
you
had
like that? I haven't used that one.
love it. Great yeast. And we had a nice cool fermentation, and that's another thing we changed. We used to not ferment it as cold.
Okay.
And we really stretch out the fermentation, and it really makes a nicer, more fruit forward wine. Where our other one, the one we used to make, I used to really like, but I wasn't really what the clientele wanted. It was more of it had a more minerality taste to it, and was a little earthier, and it was great wine. It was probably from Loire, or not Loire. What's maybe it is Loire. What's north of Bordeaux, where they make a bunch of rosés in France, south of
Provence.
Normandy. No, that's maybe it is. I can't remember. I should get a map out.
I don't know, man.
Give me 1 second.
Well, John takes this time to look at the map. I want to
No, I
praise.
always do this.
I want to praise the yeast X5 for my rosé productions. I find that with certain varietals, that will give a beautiful driving berry characteristic, especially in Cab Franc. And then it'll go tropical in some other ones as well. So I love that yeast. There you go.
X5.
Yes.
We actually bought X5 this year. I'm going to ferment, I think Riesling with it is what we're planning on that.
Let's see. North of Bordeaux, the Loire Valley.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. I haven't found it yet in my book, but I just want to double check. Loire has a little more acid minerality taste to it, where Provence, I believe, is south, and was the one we had in that pizza shop that had a little more fruit forward style to it. And we started bottling ours in a Burgundy bottle
Okay.
to try to have that kind of look to it, that it would be a little more fruit forward.
And then it would also, keep people from being able to put it in their wine racks too.
Hold on. Who can't fit a Burgundy bottle in their wine rack?
Some Burgundy bottles are difficult to fit in wine racks. I don't know if you knew.
I did not know, actually.
My favorite rosé that I ever had was from Corsica,
Really?
if you believe it. Yeah, we were in our wine tasting club. We did island wines, and we brought in one of us. I think, one of us brought in a rosé from Corsica, and it was phenomenal. It was also the lightest rosé I've ever seen in my life. You were like, "Is this white wine? Oh, I guess there is a touch of red in it." Like, it was that kind of thing. But it was just awesome, which to me means they pulled that Saignée immediately. Like, as they were filling the tank, they were pulling the Saignée. So, or maybe it was crush and press, and it was just they didn't even crush it. Maybe they just whole cluster pressed it, which I did this year on 2 rosés that we made.
Our rosé is lighter than it could be. But we never really focus on the color as much
for
as
it to
probably
be
should.
in, as long as it goes pink, I want it to be on the red spectrum side of pink, not the orange spectrum side of pink. So even if it's light in color, I still want it to be on the red side. And it takes a lot of, it's challenging because the color pigment extraction here is, and the co-pigmentation isn't great on the East Coast. So as soon as you sulfite it, boom, it goes orange. So trying to maintain that red color, I do everything possible. Oak powder sometimes in the ferment. Color stabilizing tannin, all sorts of stuff.
Yep, I used a enzyme on there to try to stabilize some of that color as well.
I've used several. I've used on the crush and press. Sometimes I'll use Laphazime fruit. And then what other one do I use? Laphazime extract as well.
Gotcha.
Just trying to get the precursors out of the skins before pressing. So, yeah. I try every trick in the book.
The other thing we changed about our rosé, just to finish up on that, is it is a little off dry. We added a half percent of sugar.
They'll love that, especially down here. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's why we started doing that, and it bumps sales probably by like 20%, 30% easily.
People
Yeah.
love sugar. It's built into their psyche. I mean, it's
Yeah, and it just
evolutionary.
it cuts through the acid and it appeals to a broader spectrum of wine drinkers. So that's really
Yep.
what it comes down to.
Yeah. All right, man. Great.
All the girls who come in with those rosé all day T-shirts, they like that 0.5%.
Nice, man. Yeah, so it's not much. It's not much.
So, anyways, thank you all very much for listening. If you enjoyed what you listened to, please feel free to support us on Patreon at Wine Brothers Podcast. So, follow us on Instagram at Wine Brothers Podcast, or follow us on Twitter. Michael, an excellent talk with you.
Yeah, good times, man.
All right.
All right.
I will talk to you in a little bit.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.